Thank you everyone for joining us today. And we have Sarat and also Kevin from Future Focus. And thank you so much for Kevin's presenting today and Sarat for organizing all of this for us today. So Sarat, I'll pass it to you.
Thanks, Farida. Okay, so I would like to begin with the acknowledgement of the country, the beautiful land we all live, we benefit from it. We should acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. So on behalf of University of Wollongong, I would like to pay respect and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting today and pay my respect to elders past, present, and future. I would also like to extend my respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people if they're present here today. So thanks everyone for joining. I would like to have a brief introduction of Kevin. Thanks, Kevin, for your opportunity to join us today and share your expertise and insights about career in financial planning with our very bright and talented students. And I must say they are the future financial advisors, and industry is in the great need of them to kick on this embark on this excellent career. So Kevin is a principal advisor and director at Future Focus Financial Planning, which is located in the Innovation Campus. So Kevin works from the Wollongong University Innovation Campus, which we are very pleased to see. And I had a couple of coffees with Kevin at Innovation Campus, and I am looking for a third coffee very soon. So Kevin was our student back in early 2000, and he graduated with Bachelor of Commerce in 2010. And after that, he also completed Certified Financial Planner. He became Certified Financial Planner in 2013. And most of his employees in his practice are from University of Wollongong. I think all of them, if I can recall correctly. So Future Focus is full of UOW alumni under the leadership of Kevin. So we are really looking forward to learn more from Kevin, which can benefit our students. And today, myself, Seerat, as an academic program director, I will be co-hosting this session with Dr. Farida, who is senior lecturer in finance. So with that, I will pass it on to Kevin for starting his discussion.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sarat, for the interview. That's half my presentation done now. Perfect. Although we're obviously operating in the virtual world today via Zoom, I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia, recognising their connection to land, waters and culture, pay my respect to their elders past, present and of course emerging, as their stories have helped add value to our community for many years. I'm hoping that today you find value in my story and the presentation on what a career in financial planning can look like. As Dr. Frida and Sarat have mentioned, my name's Kevin. I'm a director at Future Focus Financial Planning and a principal advisor there. Before we dive into a career in financial planning, I wanted to give you a bit of background on who I am and who we are at Future Focus Financial Planning. So I'm going to put up a couple of slides to follow along with throughout today's session. What I'd encourage you to do, however, is once these are up, I'm assuming, can you guys see the slides okay?
Yes.
I'd encourage you to change the slide bar on your Zoom. So my head's maybe 50%, the slides are about 50%, because you get a lot more out of the dialogue in this session than what's in these actual slides. So firstly, just a little bit about Future Focus and our business. We launched 3 years ago from our office at the UOW Innovation Campus. Our focus is on delivering holistic financial planning to the Illawarra community with a values-based focus on all investment decisions. So there's a number of awesome advice businesses in the Illawarra, and there is plenty of employment prospects throughout the region. But at the moment, we're still the only ones specialising in ethical investments. And although more organizations, more businesses are starting to provide those options, we're still the only one flying the flag at this stage. I hope that does change. I decided to become a financial advisor because I had an interest in investing and in economics, but more because I wanted to work as a professional who could help friends and family and my local community more broadly, rather than just making rich people richer or getting trapped climbing the corporate ladder. I wanted to help the people I connected with on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. While I've traveled here and there, both for work and obviously for fun, by and large, my journey has been here in the Illawarra. This is my journey so far. I plotted it out on Google Maps, and I was actually a bit embarrassed to find out it takes under an hour in the car to go from where I was born through to primary school, high school, university, my first real job, and then the future focus. The reason I bring this up is that while a number of majors require most graduates to head to Sydney for a start in their profession, in their career, there are so many opportunities here in the Illawarra for graduates who can show their ability to learn and their passion to help. So, as Surat mentioned, I studied a Bachelor of Commerce at UOW. I did it thinking that, hey, I'd like to be my own boss one day. And commerce seemed broad enough and practical enough that I should find my way somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised to hear that the broad nature of the commerce degree is why a lot of people are in commerce throughout Wollongong, throughout Australia. It's common because it's an easy start and there's many different paths to choose. I chose my majors as finance and economics. So I didn't actually do financial planning initially. I chose that based on what I was interested on and what I seemed to be good at. At the time, I did have a vague idea that financial planning seemed like a really good fit with what I wanted in a career. But I also knew at the time I could get the qualifications I needed to after university. And so I focused on my finance and economics majors. And as soon as I left and started my career, was doing the qualifications that I needed to become an advisor. This is no longer a path that's available. For new entrants looking to become a financial advisor, you're required to have a relevant degree, which makes the choice of major, particularly if you're choosing a financial planning career, more important perhaps than when I made my choices. Now, if you do pursue a career in financial planning, you'll see this slide a lot. It's a general disclaimer. I'll let you read this in your own time, but the TLDR is that nothing here I say is personal advice. So one of the questions that comes up when people are choosing a major is, are there job opportunities? I think this slide paints a pretty clear picture just by itself. So what you can see on the screen is by the end of 2018, the start of 2019, we had around 28,000 accredited financial advisors in Australia. The game changed when the Royal Commission occurred and raised the bar for education standards, for quality of advice, and for what's required to actually provide advice, how much you need to go through to satisfy that you've met the best interest duties and actually helped your client in a way that clearly puts them in that better position. A lot of businesses that had built over many years and were quite successful realized there was a lot of change required in their business to follow the path that was laid out after the Royal Commission towards financial planning becoming a profession. Many advisors just said, look, this is too hard for me. Education requirements to have a degree or a relevant degree are too high. The additional study is too challenging. And a lot of advisors realized that when they tried to do the financial advisor exam, the minimum bar that everyone had to complete, they realized there was a lot more in it than they realized, and there was probably some gaps in their own knowledge. With our profession leading up to that 28,000 advisor peak being quite an older demographic, a lot of people started retiring. For a long time during that Royal Commission, There was negative press about financial planning, so there wasn't that many people coming in. You can see that now we're very close to halving the amount of advisors that were there. So the reason this is worth looking at is that there are so many Australians who need advice that currently haven't got it, some who aren't seeking it, but many who are. If we mix that with the rapidly aging demographics we have in Australia, the need for people to be self-reliant in retirement now, and even more so in the future years, where the age pension is not going to be enough, and there's not going to be enough people paying tax to supplement the amount of people living off age pension in the future, we need to create a self-reliant Australia. And things like robo-advice is going to help bridge the gap, but it's not going to close it. The need for financial advisors is going to remain. And the key reason comes down to what's required for people to go from whatever they're doing now to large changes to find the right path for them. I've talked about this as the knowledge gap. As financial advisors, the experience that we get through the technical expertise we develop at university, the experience we get in our early careers, that puts a bar of understanding quite high. And from there, we're able to provide advice to clients. When we're sitting in front of our clients, their understanding of finances always varies. It's always a long way off our understanding. And the only way we can bridge that is through building trust and rapport with our clients and educating them, right? So while robo-advice can fill that gap to a degree, we've seen in many studies over the years that the trust factor is a bit of a limiting one when it comes to trusting algorithms with major life decisions. So it's going to fill part of the role, but there will still need to be advisors. So Surat asked in particular about career progression opportunities. So on the screen, I've got probably 3 relatively common paths, the most common paths I would see. So the top line is where you start with, after your financial planning degree, you get an entry-level role as a client services officer. This is someone doing administration work, paperwork to help people implement advice. This is probably the most common starting position, even with people for it with a degree, because without understanding what's required to implement advice, you can't give great advice. There's no point being able to recommend or trying to recommend wonderful things if people can't practically do them. So the top path there, a client service officer may work to become a team leader if they decide the technical side of financial planning is not what they love. That team leader role can go into an operations manager within a business, can go into a general manager. The middle path is what I see most people coming out of university looking for, whether they start as a client service officer or they start as a paraplanner or even just a technical expert, which we'll get to in a moment. In starting as a paraplanner, as you build up your technical knowledge and experience, the next step is generally that associate advisor role. This is generally where you start getting the opportunity to do that professional year. I'm not going to dive into the details of a professional year in today's talk, although I'm happy to take questions if there are some. There is plenty of information around this that's available. But from that associate advisor point, when you're actually working in meetings, sometimes with a senior advisor, that's when you start actually working with clients, using your technical expertise, your relationship building skills to help people make financial decisions. From there, we can move on to senior financial advisors who ultimately, when they make a recommendation, that's on them for it to be right. They're responsible for everything that they say, everything they recommend, and they're there to lead the clients down a path towards what the client wants. The step in career progression after a senior advisor, for those who are interested, is becoming a principal advisor. It's an advisor that owns the business that they work within. So this middle career path I've shown, and what I'm talking about at the moment, is probably one that's worth talking a bit about the figures, right? So what you can potentially earn if you follow this financial planning career path, which starts, of course, with the financial planning major now. The client services officer role, it's an entry-level position. If you're working full-time, it can be anywhere from $45,000 to, as you get more experience, perhaps $75,000 before moving to the next step, which could be either team leader or a paraplanner. Paraplanners can earn between $60,000 to $100,000. All these ranges you can find online. It's going to vary whether it's in Wollongong, whether it's in Sydney. The location does make a difference. Partly because in Wollongong, the businesses down here are generally focused on mums and dads, blue-collar workers, white-collar workers as well, but we're not necessarily dealing with the high net wealth clients that you do see in Sydney. As a result, the Sydney practices will generally pay early in your career a little bit higher than a regional practice. From the paraplanner role, if you step up into those advising roles, associate moving in through to senior, you're looking at anywhere from $90,000 to, as you progress and build that experience over the years, $200,000 salaries. And $200,000 salaries are the ones I've seen in the Illawarra. Now, to take that final step to be a business owner is where you really sort of put your foot down, I guess, and accelerate your earnings potential. Because at that final step as a principal advisor, not only are you able to command a salary that is in that 90 to 200 range, usually quite up the top of that range, considering if you're starting a business, I hope you've got some experience. On top of that, you're adding the profits. That's the reward of running a successful business. So there's no real limitations on what that can look like. But I know advisors, particularly in Sydney, who on top of their salaries can command profits in the hundreds of thousands and actually upwards for some of those that deal in the high net worth space. So if salary is a driver for you, starting regionally, you can get anywhere, but you'll probably start from a lower base. You'll probably progress faster regionally if you're in a smaller growing practice. But you can go to the city straight away if you chose to and land in those higher ranges for the client service officer role, paraplanner role. It's relatively rare for people to jump into an advice role straight out of university, but it's becoming a little bit more common. That comes down to the slide we had earlier that's showing the number of advisors has dropped off quite a bit. Now, this one's a bit of a double-edged sword. Jumping in and starting at that associate advisor level means you're starting with an excellent and very competitive initial salary. You're starting your professional year, which is, by all accounts, my partner's actually doing one, quite intense. You're working full-time, almost in 1.5 to 2 jobs because of the requirements within that professional year. While it's great to start at that high salary and really be thrown in the deep end, I have some serious concerns that people taking that path are going to be missing things that I've been able to pick up through working as a paraplanner, things that you can pick up working as a client service officer. I worked in that paraplanner role initially, spending about 3 years in there, 2 to 3 years, before moving on to the associate advisor role, the senior advisor role, and at roughly the 7-year mark, starting my financial planning business as an owner. I might pause just here to see if there are any questions that have come through, Frida.
Not at the moment, but I would just like to ask a question. So for regional, you said that the opportunity may be more. Is it because it's not very competitive in the Wollongong region than Sydney?
So the opportunity for roles is available wherever you go. If you're competent and you can show that you've done well at uni, that you've done well in any other previous job experience, that when you sit down for an interview, you're someone that whoever's across the table wants to actually work with. If you can show those things, you'll get a job here or in Sydney. If you've got this degree, you're a hot commodity. There's such a lack of talent, just numbers-wise, in Wollongong, in Australia at the moment, that you guys are in the driving seat. Does that answer your question, Frida?
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Jared, you've got a question?
Just considering, say, like a rural or agricultural sort of financial advisor, would that route be any different at all?
The path we've got up on the screen is not really going to be much different in terms of what your options are. And there's a third path in there that I'll get to in a moment. It's not really financial planning, but it's somewhere your degree can take you if you decide financial planning is not for you. Rurally, I think the demand is still there. There will be pockets where communities are that small that perhaps they don't have the same level. So it will be an individual community by community situation. But if we go down the coast from here, I know in Nowra, they need more advisors. I know in Bateman's Bay, they need more advisors. Not so well across what things look like as we go inland, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the opportunities are around.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we jump into this third path? I'll move on. As I go, add questions into the chat. I won't have that open to look at those, but Frida will, and she'll put her hand up virtually or and ask the question. If you want to ask the question yourself, I'll pause from time to time. Just jump in. So this third option, where you've got your financial planning degree, your major, it's a path that doesn't go directly to advising clients. It's not what everyone wants. That first step is product support, where you might work for a super or insurance provider, an investment provider, where you're there to help clients with questions that ring up, advisors with helping their clients. That role can move into a business development manager, where your role is to help advisors sell your product and engage with your product, whether again it's a super fund or insurance policy product. From there, you can progress into what I think is quite an interesting role, the practice development manager. These are individuals that are provided by large licensees. So while we are our own business, we can either be self-licensed or licensed through a larger organization who would provide compliance, support, business training, technical updates, legislative updates, research, investment research. Those organizations provide generally product practice development managers, which help you to develop your business. It's less useful if you're just an employee, they can help you, but as a business owner, a role like that is invaluable. And the reason people love jumping into that role, and our practice development manager loves his job, is he gets to work across a range of very different financial planning businesses to help share insights, industry leading best practice, and troubleshoot different problems every day. Those guys are more on that corporate ladder, and the opportunity down that path is starting to move into those executive level roles, whether it's in licensees of advisors, whether it's in product providers. So you can see that the far right-hand side of each of these paths, there is plenty of money to be made, and there's plenty of variety in where your financial planning degree can take you. Frida.
Yep. So we have a question from Joshua. He's asking, how has your day-to-day changed since the implementation of the Royal Commission?
It's a good question. When the Royal Commission was happening, around the same time, my business partner, Jared, and I, who worked in the same firm, were looking at starting our own business. We're at that point in our career where the place we were wasn't going to be able to provide what we needed out of our careers. So we're looking at how to do that ourselves. Because we're going through that process as the Royal Commission was running, we were making sure that as we developed our business plan, it was going to be built on where the profession was going rather than where it's been. So my day-to-day changed quite a lot, because I went from being an employed advisor where I saw clients, wrote file notes, provided recommendations, to a business owner that does that along with everything that comes with running a business. And there's a few hats you have to wear. My path to being a business owner wasn't just being an advisor and then being a business owner. I worked in not-for-profits to understand how organizations run and how to wear different hats beyond just being an advisor. The day-to-day in our industry, when the Royal Commission changed, has been different for different practices. Those younger, more nimble practices during that time were able to adapt quite quickly, changing the way they did fees, the way they disclosed things, the way that they backed up their advice, and the conversations they were having with their client, the depth of understanding they needed from their clients. The larger organizations, some of them did an excellent job of transitioning. Others struggled with how much change was required, going from the way they'd been successful for years to a new paradigm where some of the ways they were doing things didn't align with the changes that came off the back of the Royal Commission. Does that answer your question, Jared? I'm getting a nod.
Just Kevin, just to add here, these three pathways look very interesting. And as after the Banking Royal Commission and after the FASIA came into existence, the new entrants were required to have an approved degree. So the pathway that is in the middle, that is what requires an approved degree. What about the other pathways on the top and at the bottom? Can finance major student go to that track and they don't have to comply with the FASIA and an approved degree requirement?
Yes, that's correct. So there's different elements within some of the roles that you may need the degree for. But what I wanted to show here is if you've got the financial planning major, those paths, you're going to be at the top of everyone's list within financial planning practices. So you could come in and be a client services officer without any degrees, and most people probably do. Well, probably 50-50. For us, as an example, we hired early this year looking for UOW students to land in that client services officer role initially, and then take that step down to paraplanner and go along from there. While we've got opportunities that take that path, we're currently hiring for someone that starts at the client services officer and goes to the right. So that person doesn't need their degree.
Yep.
And Frida.
Yeah, Kevin, I've got a question from Josh. She's asking, would a finance major count towards a relevant degree to become a financial advisor? And if so, what would be the pathway after university? So without a financial planning degree, but with a finance major instead.
It's different for different universities. So there is a list of approved degrees that's available online. With that list of approved degrees, you'll find that UOW's financial planning major is an approved degree. So if you've got the financial planning degree, that's a tick. I haven't checked to see if you can get in there with UOW's finance degree. I don't believe you can anymore. I'd be surprised to see if there are any new entrant degrees without a financial planning major. I think they're all stripped out, but I haven't looked across everyone.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. So if you don't choose the financial planning major, you're going to have to do a number of bridging subjects after you finish university. If you've got the finance major, which they go, look, we'll give you some credit for that, but you're basically going to have to do the financial planning major on top of that. Regardless of whether you take that path or you do the financial planning major initially, the next step is the professional year in terms of getting accreditations. That's broken into a few different segments that you work through while you're working within a business. Usually starts with a bit of admin work, then evolves to a large focus on paraplanning, so developing advice and doing the back office functions of financial planning, moving into shadowing an advisor in meetings, starting to run parts of those, eventually running full meetings, completing a few different courses, in particular the ethics subject and the FASIA advisor advisor exam. Interestingly enough, some of these look like they're about to change. Some of those last few things, the financial planning major is going to be a requirement, I believe, into the future. But whether you have to do the degree is uncertain. The professional year, though, will remain. So that's at least 12 months of very thoroughly documented progression through the different functions an advisor needs to be able to do with their clients. Eventually, you get your training wheels off. You can sit in a meeting with clients, provide advice off your own bat with your own name. This is my recommendations. And at which point your salary is looking pretty good. but you're also taking on the liability for each of the recommendations you provide. So you've got to make sure you've got that understanding of what is required to meet your requirements as an advisor. And a lot of that you learn through the professional year in the paraplanning stage.
Thank you very much. And Sarat has put a list of approved degree that can be assessed. So I've got another question, Josh. Would a postgraduate diploma of the financial planning on top of a finance major meet the requirements?
I'm not 100% sure. In the past, my path was to get my finance and economics majors. Looking back, they said, yeah, that's a relevant degree. And I've got on top of that, though, I had to have financial planning qualifications, which I did by doing my Diploma of Financial Services through Kaplan, then my Advanced Diploma of Financial Services. On top of that, I did my Certified Financial Planner, CFP, through the FPA, just to make sure that my technical expertise didn't have gaps. I don't think diploma level is going to cut it anymore, but you'd be able to look through Sarat's list for specifics.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
So the next thing I want to go through, I guess, is what the advice experience is, right? So this is how we do it. When a new client comes to us, they're usually referred by friends or family that have already worked with us. There's someone that we know through our personal networks, or another professional we've worked with over the years refers them through to us for advice. We initially do a meeting where we get to know them a bit and talk about what working together could look like. It's a chance for them to understand a bit about what financial planning is, what it could involve, and whether it might be worthwhile following the path. Because financial planning is not cheap. To go through the initial advice process with the client, there's usually 30 hours plus worth of work by an advisor who's sitting on a salary in the $100,000 to $200,000 range, a lot of it. So to fund that, to cover the costs of running a business and to have some profit on top, it's not cheap to get advice. A lot of that comes down to the red tape that's been added in the last 5 to 10 years. The Royal Commission significantly increased the cost of advice because of all the different red tape and requirements we must meet. That 30 hours used to be 10 when I started my career, perhaps, and the fees reflected that. So in that initial consultation, I'm trying to get a feel for, can I add more value that I'm going to have to charge this person? Do I think that's possible? If not, that's when I'll provide some general advice, access to some information that might help them, and guidance on when would be a time to re-engage the services of an advisor, hopefully us. The next step is the discovery meeting. We give clients the ability to do some homework and send that through to us. That's collecting all their facts and figures on super, insurance, investments, salaries, expenses, everything with a dollar figure. Once they've done that homework, the discovery meeting that we have is usually face-to-face in our office. Those meetings are often 3-hour meetings. We're having discussions on the future, on different scenarios that more than likely they've never had before. So you're not only showing value at that point, you're really getting to know someone at a level that is quite surprising. And you can only do that if you start building rapport with your clients right from the start in that initial consultation. My business partner and I often talk about the fact that we probably hear everything their doctor hears about their medical background, because to get insurances, we need to know all that. The insurer is going to ask those questions to see if they're going to provide a policy. We generally know as much as their partner about their finances, sometimes more. Often the comment comes up in meetings, oh, I didn't know you did that, or had that, or spent that. We get some interesting discussions that we just kind of have to sit back and let play out. We get discussions around finances that they've never had, because finances and money is almost a taboo in relationships in society. And part of that discovery meeting is giving the people a chance to discuss and articulate what they actually want from their money. In that meeting as well, we're trying to get an understanding of what people value, what they're happy to pay for, what they don't want to pay for, what their preferences are in a range of different areas. We then go and do our work. This is the time-intensive stuff. So researching their current situation, making sure we've got an understanding of everything. understanding of what they're trying to work towards, and what things they are and aren't comfortable doing to get there, and building advice that covers everything. In our case, we do comprehensive planning, which covers the whole picture. If there's something we can't directly help our clients with, we're referring them to a professional that can. We want someone that goes through our process to be able to have all their finances aligned with what they want to do. We present that advice in the plan presentation meeting, and in the strategy meeting, we present that advice. A lot of people sign up on the spot going, yep, you've explained it so well, I understand what we're doing and why, I understand what it costs, I'm happy to do that. It's getting informed consent. The plan presentation meeting is only required for those clients that really want to sit and digest all the information, come back with questions. We then catch up and make sure that everything that we actually implement on their behalf lands where it should. The other meeting that's not on the screen, that's a common part of working with clients, is the annual reviews and general inquiry meetings. So for clients that pay you each year or throughout the year, you're required to provide them an annual review where you sit down and review absolutely everything that's going on in their world and ours. So ours being legislation, products, investment markets. Through that process, that initial process, you get to know people incredibly well. This is a career path for people who are passionate about people. If you want to help people, if you want to connect, this is an excellent way to do it. You can add value in ways that no one else in their life can. And you get paid for that as well, obviously. The role of a financial planner isn't simply about investing money. At its core, financial planning is about guiding people to achieve their own goals, to achieve security through personalized strategies. So I won't go through everything on the screen at the moment, but when we're talking with our clients, this is how we can help. So on the left, we've got different goals, things people want to achieve. They articulate it in very different ways, but they're the common areas we usually find. Our job is to figure out what they need to do to get there, and to have the conviction in the strategies we put together to recommend to them and pass that conviction on to the point where they go, yeah, look, I understand that. It makes sense. I can see the path ahead. Let's do that together. So every client situation is different. The best part of my job is probably that fact that I'm getting to know not just what people in my industry do. I don't spend all of my day talking to other financial planning professionals. I spend a lot of my day talking to professionals from everywhere, whether it's from UOW, whether it's from BlueScope or Commonwealth Bank, or whether it's someone that does the gardening at UOW or wherever. We work with people from their 20s through to their 90s. I don't have any clients in their hundreds at the moment, just a couple of 90-year-olds that love sitting down talking about their investments. And it's amazing some of the things that they've picked up over the years and explained to me, which is quite rewarding in itself. I just wanted to move on now, though, to what a career in financial planning can look like in terms of what my experience has been. So these are some of the common questions that we've received. So what made me decide to become a financial planner? It was actually interesting. I sat down with the UOW careers book and a blank sheet of paper. I wrote down on that paper all the things I wanted out of a career. Now that list had some unusual things in there. I wanted to work in an office because I wanted to be in an air-conditioned space because I'm a bit of a sweaty dude. Working outside didn't allow me to do my next thing, which is I wanted to wear a suit. Like, I put everything on this list. And when I went through that careers booklet, financial planning again and again kept standing out as ticking more boxes than anything. So why I became a financial planner was because I realized I could help people I care about with a level of expertise that was challenging to get, and in a way it's quite challenging. In client meetings, I'm not just using the technical expertise I've picked up over the years. I'm understanding body language. I'm reading and reacting to that. I'm helping people understand wherever they are on that spectrum of understanding, how to get further down that. Explaining things at their level, which involves figuring out where their level of understanding is. A lot of being a financial advisor is the human side. It's connecting with your clients and understanding the behavioral biases we all have, particularly around money, coaching people to understand these themselves, and also putting in place strategies that help you avoid succumbing to some of the common problems that leave people in financial situations they probably shouldn't be in. There's lots of simple things there around cash flow, but investing, people lose a lot of money doing some really dumb things. Dumb from the perspective of many years of understanding and training that most people haven't had. You obviously never call a client dumb, just to highlight that. Even if they're things that they say are silly, they're coming to help. They're coming for help. Your job is to understand where they are and help them get further down the path. Clients, when they sit across from you, are quite vulnerable. They're coming there admitting they don't have all the answers. You need to respect that. What does a typical day in the office look like? It depends what step you're at, right? So if we just go back a little bit into our little our pathways here, a client service officer, they're spending quite a bit of time reviewing the advice that advisors provided and pulling out of that what actually needs to happen. What forms need to be prepared? How do I prepare, put all the right information in there so that if the client goes, yep, let's do it, all they have to do is sign. While there's a lot of paperwork and preparation in that role, it also involves interacting with clients, helping troubleshoot admin questions that they might come up with, helping people make small changes along the way. Anything without a recommendation that doesn't fall into advice, the client service officer is there to interact with clients and help out with. The paraplanner, funnily enough, if you go from service officer to paraplanner, usually go from a client interaction role to one that's a bit more back office. The paraplanners focus a lot more on the technical side of things, doing the research required to prepare advice, and also understanding, build and developing the strategies. As an advisor, when I'm sitting with clients in that role, I'm generally in and out of meetings. I'm recording what happened in meetings. I'm preparing advice to present in meetings. I'm making sure I understand exactly what I need, understand exactly what I need to about my clients. And frankly, about 30% of your job as an advisor is dealing with random questions that people come out with. That's going and finding answers and providing recommendations. Once you've done that initial process and you've met all your needs to understand your client, set a foundation plan, you're in a position where they can ask you a question, you go, I recommend this. And that's pretty cool. The final step as a business owner in my path, I haven't gone down the other paths, but the final step as a business owner is literally wearing every other hat that is needed within a business, whether it's HR, marketing, finance. There's quite a few hats there. We won't dive into that too much just because it's a couple of years away. While you probably could start a business straight out of uni in this career, there is a relatively high bar to do this. There's quite a bit of cost going into it. And because there's such a leap of faith for someone to get advice, you might find you struggle to get clients if you haven't got a track record of doing the right thing. So the other question we had here on the page, the key questions, best part of my job, I think I've answered, it's dealing with people, getting to know people and understand what they're trying to do and going, I recommend you do this, it'll get you there. Helping them understand what I mean, what that path looks like, and how we're going to do it together. And what advice would I give someone considering a career in financial planning? If you like people, if you want to help people in your community in particular, if you like finance, if you like explaining things, if you like teaching, if you're a people person, this is an excellent career. Not only financially, the rewards are definitely there, but the buzz I get out of working with clients, I come out of every meeting on a high. And I know that talking to my clients who have all different professions, talking to my friends, talking to my family, not many people find that in their careers. There's a lot of roles out there where you're just not going to get that exhilaration of being face to face with someone and helping them down the path towards the future they desire. I might pause there. Do we have any questions coming through at the moment, or would anyone like to ask any questions? I've talked a lot.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Just just a question about, sorry, I've got one from Joshua. What is your biggest restraint as a financial advisor in the current climate? Compliance, etc.?
Compliance, absolutely. So the way the industry has evolved over the years is there's been an advisor who took advantage of the trust provided to them. And so legislation has come in to stop that particular thing ever happening again, with side effects, right, impacting other areas. It's happened again and again. We've had royal commissions, we've had FOFA, we've had a number of changes, which I think you learned about in your last week's session. There's so much change that's been happening, and every single time there's been an additional layer of red tape we need to get through, between saying, "G'day, nice to meet you, I'm Kevin," to, "Do you want to proceed with our advice?" And those extra layers of red tape keep getting added. It's been a long time since any were removed. We talk in the industry about a compliance pendulum, and it's swung way too far out. The idea of the pendulum is that one day it starts swinging back. We're actually starting to see that. The government in the last year or two, both Liberal and then Labor, are starting to come to terms with the fact that people are leaving the industry because it's too hard for a lot of people, particularly if you'd built your business on the way it used to work. They're trying to remove the barriers as well, because in recent years, the education standards, the ethics requirements that have been implemented, that's part of the reason people left as well. We've weeded out a lot of advisors that shouldn't have been in the industry, full stop. We lost a lot of good people along the way, but I do believe the compliance requirements will reduce over the next couple of years. They'll change. They won't all just go away. But at the moment, the biggest bar to getting advice is the compliance requirements we have to go through before we can help someone actually do something. For instance, if a client reaches out and they said, "Hey, I want to know if I can keep the home I'm currently living in as an investment property and buy another one," I have to go through 30 hours worth of work and conversations with them. It's only maybe 5 hours of conversations with them before I can go yes or no, right? It's a bit ridiculous. But if I don't, some people don't go through that full process. If I don't and provide advice earlier on, I'm risking my business. I'm risking my ability to help all the other clients that I have. So compliance is necessary, but it's definitely a big hurdle, stopping more people from getting advice. I'd want to help more people, but we need more staff to do that, and we need more time within the business. And obviously you get that by bringing in more staff, which is why we're hiring, which is why we're looking for people, and we will be for the next 5 to 10 years at least.
Just one question, Kevin. Thanks for your very interesting insights. I'm really appreciating your discussion. Sometimes students often ask, what kind of other major study option can go well with financial planning major? So is there any particular major which can give those soft skills which can benefit them as a financial planner in the industry?
Honestly, the soft skills I haven't seen delivered effectively by any particular university course. The soft skills you largely get through experience, finding excellent mentors to work under. And there are courses out there through, for instance, the Management Institute of Australia around things like emotional intelligence. There's a lot of MOOCs, massive open online courses that go into personal skills. And you can read about this stuff all day, but you need to practice it. I still come out of meetings and write down notes of, hey, I could have done this better. Or I've realized they weren't sure there. I should have paused and investigated that a bit longer to do a better job, to connect better. In terms of majors that help financial planning, there's not necessarily soft skill. I made a choice in picking my finance and economics majors, partly because I wasn't wedded to a career in financial planning, but also knowing that if I went down the path of financial planning, having a background in investment, in finance and economics was going to put me a step, if not 2 steps ahead of the other people in my industry. I know the conversations I have with my colleagues and can have with my colleagues and with my clients has definitely improved, and is at a different level because I've got that background and I understand what's going on to a different level, which means when I sit down with the client who has 1,000 questions, I can answer them. I can answer them to a level of depth that I don't feel out of my depth. Whereas advisors that purely go down the financial planning path know the legislation, but when they say what's going on in the markets, or why is this investment doing that, or even why, or even if you run into issues around behavior with your clients or habits they have, finance and economics gave me the tools to understand and address those.
And thanks, Kevin. It's an excellent response.
Kevin, I have a question. I was just wondering, how do you find like the work-life balance being a financial planner? Is that like, are you still able to get away for holidays and that sort of thing, or is it very?
It can vary a lot, right? So, particularly as a business owner, right? So as a financial advisor, if you're employed, you've got your 4 weeks a year. You're in demand at the moment. You're going to be able to stick to your 9 to 5 pretty easy. A lot of employers are offering flexibility for work from home, work remote, and even 4-day weeks or 9-day fortnights. So the flexibility as an employee is definitely out there. I think financial planning is, and another reason I got into it, a reason it's an excellent career, is because if I went down the path of finance, markets are on 24/7. If I want to be excellent in finance, I have to be on pretty well all the time to excel. There's not going to be a time to switch off. With financial planning, you're providing advice for timeframes that are not day to day. It's not even week to week. So what do you do over the next months, over the years ahead? And because of those timelines, at 5 o'clock, you can go home and you don't have to think about it. And I'd encourage you, as a bit of advice for anyone in this career, in any career, learning to switch off when you go home makes the work-life balance completely different. The people who take their work home with them and can't stop thinking about it, doesn't matter how many hours you work, if you're taking it home, you don't have any balance. As a business owner, it's different, definitely different. We're starting a business from scratch. We're 3 years in. I still work probably 50-hour weeks. So that goes across usually 6 days of the week. I've got flexibility in how I spend my time, but because I want to focus over the early years of our business and building it and growing it as much as we can and as effectively as we can, that requires me to make sacrifices. Over the next few years, though, I'll be transitioning to a lot more flexibility than I ever would have had as an employee. And that comes down to building the business with that in mind. Does that answer your question all right, Rachel?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Excellent.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
Are there any softwares or like tools that you'd recommend students learn in their own time while we're still studying?
Look, that's really hard because they're all pay to play and they're all expensive as anything. So the most commonly used in the industry is Xplan. To even start training in it, really, you can do a little bit online. You can find the odd bit thing here and there, but the only real way to train in it is to work in a business that has it. The licenses for Xplan, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's thousands of dollars a year per person. And while there are other softwares out there, they're all relatively expensive because to give advice, you have to provide a statement of advice. The software is largely focused on the creation of those efficiently and compliantly. The SOAs we give our clients are 60 to 100 pages. And I'm not going to write every word of that if I wrote it all from word 1 to whatever it is, 30,000, I'm going to miss things. And at the end of the day, that liability sits with me. Something goes wrong and I've made a mistake, it's on me. So having the right software is really important, and they know that, and that's why it's so expensive. It's really hard to train. the best way to get experience in the software, pretty well get a job, get an internship. That's really all I can offer there. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Because the industry is trying to make itself more efficient, there is lots of great training resources available once you're in the door. A lot of it is stuck behind the wall of licensed businesses. So you have to get into a licensed business to be able to access this stuff. Any other questions, guys? I've covered pretty well everything I wanted to cover today. There's some stuff on ethical investing if you're particularly interested in it. But before I dive into that or finish up, whatever you guys would like, are there any final questions? So just to finish off then, let's have a bit of a look at ethical investing and what that can mean. I don't have much in the way of slides towards this, but ethical investing is in financial planning is helping getting to understand people's values, what's important to them. Some people come out and say, look, sustainability is really important to me. My ethics are really important to me. I don't want to be invested in fossil fuel, in human exploitation, or companies that are involved in that in some way. Our job as advisors is to uncover what's important to people and to find ways towards their goals that align with their values. And that's where ethical investing comes in. It's finding whether it's investment managers, in our case, the approach we take, specialist ethical investment managers that suit our individual clients and building portfolios for them, or whether it's actually going out there and developing the portfolios on a stock-by-stock basis that some other firms do, generally those dealing with higher net worth clients. This is a career where you can really move the needle, like genuinely. I'm part of the Ethical Advisors Cooperative. There's around 30 advisors around the country currently. We manage over $2 billion in ethical invested funds between that group. And the feedback we provide to fund managers who ultimately decide where people's money gets invested, that's led to these product providers, the fund managers, investing more aligned to what our clients are saying are their values. The transition to a more sustainable future requires legislation change, but governments follow. They don't lead. Capital, in my view, I believe money leads. And if money is going towards a more sustainable future, that will help us down that path. The money needs to flow in that direction. The preferences need to flow for the money to flow in those directions. And as it does, we will see change. Eventually, governments will create some legislation that helps, but the money needs to move first. And it slowly is. So I guess my point there is if you are interested in an ethical career, this is a way to move the needle that protesting won't do, that anything short of probably executive level won't allow you to do. So if you're looking to create impact through the expertise you develop, ethical investing within the context of financial planning is one of the best ways to do it. And this is one of the main reasons I followed this path and started our business. I wanted to have control over the ability to do this. I worked in practice that weren't interested, like many in the industry weren't. We've been one of the few that specialize in this area and have the expertise to do it well. And we are seeing more businesses follow. If you can learn about ethical investing, if you can show interest and that you've taken actions perhaps in understanding that world, you're going to be extra employable. That will be a point of difference, because when Vassia came out and provided the standard of the code of ethics, one of the points requires us to understand if clients have preferences towards ethical investing. And if we ask that question, they say yes, and we can't do it as a business, we really shouldn't help that client. So a lot more businesses are looking for people that are interested in this space. They're looking at graduates. They're looking at younger Australia who's generally more passionate about this area. So if it's something you're interested in, follow that path. And
Okay.
I think we've gone over time, so I'll let Sarat finish up from here.
Yeah, that's okay. Just one question here. I was in an industry event last month. I think Joshua was there as well. There was a divided opinion. A few group of industry professionals were saying they don't have any clients who really want ethical investing, whereas another was saying we do have, we do serve, and another person who manage billions of dollar worth portfolio said if we do impact investing, at the end of the day client want where is my money, whether it has increased or not. So at the end of the day it's all about finances than the social and environmental impact. So do you see more of the financial planners and more of the clients are now coming across Australia with that ethical investing mindset, or is still in an early stage? And
In my slides, I've got a few resources for people who are interested to learn a bit more about responsible investing or ethical investing. The Responsible Investment Association of Australasia has some excellent content showing the transition in preferences towards ethical investing. It's picked up significantly in recent years. One thing that's interesting in our profession is that people come to us with a pretty low bar of understanding. We have to educate. And in doing so, we bear the responsibility of helping them understand what their options actually are. I can guarantee you that the advisors that have no clients that are interested in ethical investing aren't asking the right questions. They don't want to provide ethical investment because it's a point of vulnerability for them, something they don't understand. So they're going to either skip over it or persuade down another path. In terms of ethical investing, we talk with our clients about different levels, right? So there's ESG integration, where you're just looking to see if your fund manager or your super fund pays attention to those factors, environment, social, and governance factors. The next step is screening, so avoiding certain companies and industries or focusing positively on certain companies or industries. We then start looking at what impact the investments actually have, and whether our fund managers, whether we as individuals are using our ownership of assets to advocate for change. It's probably step 3. Step 4, that impact investing, is where you start sacrificing returns. Before then, you're not sacrificing returns. The literature is quite clear on this from everything I've read, that you can invest ethically and perform above averagely with good investment management. Impact investing, you're trading off. At impact investing, you need to go, look, have I got enough for myself? Am I going to make enough money? Is the impact I'm going to create worthwhile for me, my values? You can go beyond that into philanthropy, but a lot of advisors in our industry that dismiss ethical investing think it's only impact investing.
That's an excellent insight, Kevin, again. And I must acknowledge that this is a knowledge gap which you pointed. If financial advisors in the industry, they are not updated on this, because they, as a human, we will skip over. Even if the client asks, we will switch to something that we are expert in. Yeah, so based on your discussion, I found another guest lecture in you for my postgraduate subject, socially responsible finance, because the things you are saying, exclusion, screening, ESG integration, impact investing, that I have done in my postgraduate subject, which was a brand new subject, and few new subjects hopefully will be coming in undergrad space as well, to help our students develop that education. And when they go in the industry, they have that training, and then they can tap on that market on ethical investing.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And thank you very much, Sarat, for organizing all of this today. And for those who are attending today, it's really excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you all, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin.
You know,
I did. Thank you
for the insights. Really good.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you
for your wonderful presentation. So we will hope to have you again. And thanks, students, for your time. And we'd love to have your reflection. If you think there is anything positive, many positive things, of course, if you can send us, me or Farida or Kevin directly, just a word of reflection, that will be really good for us to have.
And if you disagree with anything I said, or you've got some questions, shoot them through. I'm always happy to have those conversations and be challenged myself. Always keen to learn.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Okay, with that, we will leave now. And thanks again. Thanks everyone. It's Friday. Half of the day is gone. And I wish you all of you a very happy weekend. Try to have a work-life balance there.
Thank you, guys. I'll see you later.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
see you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.